So, Tom, thanks for coming. Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, just back from holiday, yeah?
Yes, like hours ago.
Oh, wow, fantastic.
So that's why I'm copying out with the music here, rather than trying to memorise everything, yeah.
Cool, so yeah, I mean, well, we've known each other for quite a while, haven't we?
Yeah.
We met playing in the band Beauty Room.
Yeah, so we were fellow keyboard players and playing in a band which required more than 2 hands worth of music. And that was quite a short-lived band, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was Kirk DiGiorgio's band, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And quite sort of a departure from what he's kind of normally doing, which is, more kind of techno stuff. It was much more like Steely Dan kind of influence, wasn't it?
Yeah, because he's got a very kind of eclectic, broad taste, and it was Steely Dan, Joni Mitchell inspired music. So that's how we met. That's how we met, but more importantly, you're an EMC tutor. You've been teaching point blank. I think I'm on my 27th or 28th course now as well.
Wow,
yes,
you've been counting.
I keep a record of them on my computer today. Yeah, it's been a while now.
Cool. And how do you find it?
I think it's excellent. I think one of the main strands or the main feelings of people coming onto that EMC course, regardless of their musical background, is something that I always have struggled with as well, which is getting from a loop to a full track, or getting over the finishing line of actually having a composition. So I think that the course is really structured well, and lots of relevant kind of theory and stuff that helps people make music that they're happy with. So I really like it.
Cool, fantastic. So today we're here to talk about Herbie Hancock.
Yes.
I think we're kind of, we can agree.
We could fill many hours with this.
Fellow Herbie Hancock fans, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. Can you remember when you first got into Herbie?
One of my friends lent me a CD from the school CD library, and I was about to go into brass group rehearsal or something like that, and I stuck it on, and the bass line blew my mind. Right. And I sort of listened transfixed for the next quarter of an hour, running into the rehearsal.
This is Chameleon, yeah?
This was Chameleon, yeah.
Right, okay.
So basically it was a Headhunters album that I listened to, and that's the first track. And I must have been 14 or 15, so relatively late, and I was already listening to Jamiroquai and stuff, but that was definitely a turning point in my musical life. Yeah. When I heard that.
For me as well, I think Chameleon was the first track that kind of almost like was the gateway into jazz. It had the funk, and I was kind of I'd been listening to hip hop and some go-go music, and then this kind of came along, and it was like it totally made sense, but it had the kind of this sort of these new chords and jazz and stuff. So it kind of hooked me in.
And I think in the context of today as well, and the influence it's had on my music writing. It's the writing style and the harmony that's involved. It's the instruments that were involved and the production techniques and that kind of thing. So it's not just that one song. It's had a huge effect on most aspects of my music writing, I would say. Yeah.
But I mean, you're no stranger to this kind of thing because you've got your own YouTube channel. Yeah. And let me just see if I can bring that up now. Actually, there we go. Let's just load it up. Because, do you want to talk a little bit about what you do with your YouTube channel? Yeah,
this stems back to when, probably more so when I was, before I went full-time as a musician. And I just loved Herbie's music so much that I was doing basically week 5 of the EMC course. I was analysing his tracks and just figuring out what on earth he was doing. And did an awful lot of kind of ear training to try and figure out all the chords and the scales that he was playing and that kind of thing. And then I thought, well, it'd be good to have a calling card online, but also to help other people pick this stuff up. Yeah. So the YouTube channel, the idea was partly is playing along so you can hear what I've figured out, but more recently, or in recent years, I've tried to have half-speed play-along videos, which are still, obviously, the complexity of the music means it's not that easy to get into, but for someone who's determined, who loves this music, then the view from above with the light-up keys is obviously helpful for picking up voicings of chords or particular licks and stuff. So.
And has kind of analysing other people's music been a crucial part in your study of music?
Absolutely. I think anything that's jazz related involving improvisation, or in fact it's probably more wide-reaching than jazz, but I think that's one of the main things you do to find your own distinctive voice. Yeah. You learn from others and you assimilate it. Yeah. I don't think there's anything particularly original that comes without external influences. Yeah. So I think it's one of the main things you can do as a musician is to try and analyse your favourite music and figure out what it is you like about that, whether it's production techniques or harmony or structure. Yeah.
I suppose it sort of seeps, all the riffs and chords, everything kind of seep into your subconscious, and that kind of comes out, in itself.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's not going to come out completely, it'll be regurgitated, but it will be your own spin on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also just wanted to mention your band as well, because you've got Resolution 88.
Yeah, I think it's worth saying that Resolution 88, I was inspired by Broken Beat, but also pretty much Herbie Hancock's music, Chameleon. So anyone who enjoys the tutorial today, if you like the sounds that are being used, or you like the kind of groove, the harmony, then please do check out Resolution 88, because we're basically doing the same thing with the same lineup of band. So it's percussion, drums, bass, keys, and sax.
Cool. So, well, I think without further ado, we should actually check out the track. Got it on vinyl. I think I bought this in LA 15 years ago or something.
It looks well loved.
It's definitely well loved. Yeah, exactly. Got to love the vinyl. So let's just have a quick listen. And there's a few versions of this. I'm also going to bring up a picture. I love this picture of Herbie actually doing a live version. There's a video on YouTube of him in Germany, I think.
There is. Yeah. And there's one in Chicago as well.
Yeah.
At least two.
Yeah.
From 74. Yeah.
And I mean, I've got to mention the version on this album as well. Flood. This is kind of where he goes crazy on the album, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of does like a 2-3 minute like white noise solo on this.
Yeah.
Which is it's incredible.
Yeah.
First listen is a bit kind of hard to get into, but.
And I think so. The Chicago video online has a similar sort of solo.
Yeah.
And I think he's almost mimicking as if he's got a sound beam that he's playing, but I don't think he has. I think it was an expression pedal.
Yeah.
For the filter on the noise. So. Yeah.
Well, we'll come back to that in a minute, but I just want to also play this track, this came out in the mid-90s. I love this. It's that Ashley Beadle project, Ballistic Brothers, and they actually sampled a section of Chameleon. And they also sampled, if I can get to it, Skill Scott Heron, I think.
Sounds like it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Cool. So, I mean, I think you can't deny the fact that Herbie's a massive influence on so many artists, whether it's kind of sampling, looping, or whatever, playing. So, but yeah, I mean, just going back to the original version, I mean, the keyboards that Herbie used on this, and the personnel as well. I mean, we've got Paul Jackson on bass.
Yeah, although in this piece, before the solo section, he's actually playing up the neck, more like a...
So that riff there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's playing... Yeah. So he's not really playing a bass line at this point. Yeah.
And we've got Herbie Hancock at this point is playing the Harp Odyssey, which is the bass, which we've got here. This is the new chord version, so we're going to have a look at actually kind of recreating that sound. And then there's clav here as well, isn't there?
Yeah, there are two. So at this point I'll mention a couple of books. If you're really interested in this track, there's the Headhunters book, and there's some really interesting stuff in this. There's some quite dry chapters about discussion of genres of music.
Yeah.
But also the interesting things are the production techniques, and also a little bit about how this music came to be really popular. So I won't go into that, but that's quite interesting.
I haven't read that one.
And then this one is his memoirs, which there are quite a few anecdotes that are heard elsewhere.
Yeah.
But it is also very interesting reads for people who haven't heard those anecdotes before.
Yeah.
And relating to Chameleon, they said the working title was called Homegrown. I've heard it called Chicken Caesar Salad as well somewhere. I can't remember where I heard that, but obviously it took a while to settle on the name. It was 23 minutes long.
23 minutes?
Yeah,
wow.
But to keep the dynamic range on the album, they cut off some songs that were too long as well. And Chameleon, they just fade out after 16 minutes.
Right.
And the reason I was mentioning that was you were talking about the personnel. 4 people are credited with the songwriting. So it's Herbie, Paul Jackson, Harvey Mason, and Benny Maupin.
Okay.
And the producer had a hand in the bass line as well.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And Herbie, in both books, talks about using a mini Moog for the bass line, but I don't think that's true. I think that's an inaccuracy, because it's definitely an Harp Odyssey, possibly doubled with a pro soloist.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. And Harvey Mason on drums. We're gonna start off actually by I think what we'll do today is we'll program the beat, just this basic kind of intro beat. Then we'll look at the bass sound, just recreating that. And then just have a listen through to the different sections as well, and then we can kind of we can look at some of the chords and things as well that we're doing. So Yeah, let's just have a look at this this first beat. I'm just going to just play it to you now. Obviously a great feel on there. So I'm just going to go to, I've got Ableton here with push. Here we go. And I'm using these Native Instruments 70s Abbey Road drums here, which are great, really nice. They got some, really cool controls on the mixer section here, kind of tape saturation stuff. So I sort of fiddle around a little bit, trying to get that kind of dry sound.
Yeah, because at this point the production values were everything was dry as possible.
Yeah.
The outer heads of the drums were off.
Right. Okay.
And they added everything back in with effects.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's just turn the metronome down a little bit. There we go. Okay, so let's just try and put this beat in. Okay, so we've got that. We've got a sort of hi-hat here, which now I've got this actually quantized to straight 16s, and the beat is much more kind of fluid and quantized. But I'm going to look at actually creating groove template from the original beat and then applying that to this beat. So it sounds a bit kind of like a bit quantized at the moment. But let's put this hi-hat in for the moment.
Okay.
So just to get rid of that. Going to put this beat in again because it's just got rid of it, unfortunately. Here we go. So let's just go again. Okay, let's go again. Sorry, just got to put the accent back on. Here we go. We get there in the end. Okay. Okay, so we've got that in. There's also this kind of like roll that comes at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the kind of basic beat. Let's look at actually trying to apply a groove template to that. So if we just go back to the track here, I've just got the actual track in the arrange view. There we go. So if I just grab that, you can see I've actually just put a little bit of warping on. I've just warped, I put a warp marker after 2 bars and at the end as well. So I've kind of kept the feel within the 2 bars. But if I just drag that over there, just kind of copy that. So we're now in session view. And then I right click on here, and then click on extract grooves. It's going to analyze that and extract the quantize from that. It's just doing its business now, and it's going to put it into the groove pool. There you go, it's created it there. And then that means what I can do is I can just click on that clip that I've just created and pull down here, select that groove, and then if I play that now, so that's actually applied Harvey Mason's kind of groove.
That's really cool. I think the two bar choice is really good because, as we were saying earlier, I was reading in the book, whether you trust this information or not, they said they recorded the bass line to a click, and then there was one line of clavinet played with the drums and Paul Jackson's line and Benny Maupin live.
Yeah.
So that would suggest that Harvey Mason had a click to play that too. But given that the groove is so swung, I don't know what kind of click it was. It can't have been locked down to every eighth note or anything, can it? It must have been quite a subtle click.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe first beat of the bar or something. So
I
think a good choice of warping. Yeah.
Good warping.
Good warping.
Love a bit of warping. So let's look at the bass line now. Which is
your area.
So first of all, let's just talk about the key signature, and if I just put the virtual keyboard on as well. There we go. Okay, so we're in B flat minor here. Yeah.
Sort of.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Why would you say sort of?
Because in terms of a minor feel, if you were soloing over it, it might feel more like Dorian rather than minor, which is Aeolian. So
okay.
It might be it's never particularly locked down, I suppose. It can alternate. It's just that the bass line is definitely alternating between a bar or two of B flat and then E flat. So it's going from the 1 chord to the 4 chord. I think that's definitely the main thing to pick up.
I mean, if we play a B flat natural minor.
Yeah, with the G flat there. Yeah.
With the G flat, and a Dorian would be raising the 6th.
Exactly.
Yeah?
So you'd have the G natural.
So I suppose that there's always a bit of ambiguity, isn't there? You can't kind of when you're analysing this. But the main, like you mentioned, the main kind of bass riff is going from the B flat to the E flat. So if I just play this now. In fact, we might as well just record that in.
Yeah.
There we go, so it's just... And I mean, I've got the Korg ARP Odyssey, or the Carp Odyssey, as some people like to call it. And I'm just absolutely loving it. I originally did. I used to own an original ARP Odyssey, which I think it was the first one, actually, the first model, Mark 1, and it just never really worked.
That's the problem, isn't it?
So temperamental. Whereas it's so amazing to have something that is just pristine, and the faders aren't too scratchy and everything. Although there's a lot to be said for scratchy faders and kind of dirty sounding speakers and things.
Yeah, and in terms of the focus on the different sounds in this track and for today, everyone will have their own, I guess, criteria for their production setup and their own budgets and stuff, and you have to go with your own priorities. Vintage synths sound great, but the upkeep of them is really expensive and difficult sometimes. So for some people it would make a lot of sense to have the new one because it's a great performance tool. You can see it's back to kind of hands-on synth programming with all the knobs there, rather than being more of a controller.
I mean, so looking at this sound, I mean, this has got 2 oscillators here, and this sound is actually kind of just using 1 oscillator. So if we just turn the ADSR, the decay up and sustain, so we just get a saw wave here. This is the level for the first oscillator, and you can swap between a square wave or a saw wave. This is a saw. Just such, I hate to use the word, but such a fat sound. And it also gives you 3 different filter types as well, models from the different models of ARP. And I've got this one on the first one here, which is, I presume, that was the ARP that.
Because there was a Moog filter, wasn't there, or a Moog filter design, I think, that caused some controversy when it was in the ARP Odyssey. I think that's right. I think it was the first revision. They got into trouble, so they had to revise it.
But it's amazing when you switch between the 3 of them. I mean, it's making a big difference to the resonance on there.
Definitely.
So, the key to this sound really is to have the resonance right up. So you sort of almost get this like sort of routed to the filter cutoff. So if we take down the decay there, push up the sustain a little bit, and then there's almost like a sweet spot where you just get that kind of, if it's up there, it's too much.
Yeah,
but
just a tiny bit of that.
Yeah.
And almost nothing in the envelope of the sound or the attack.
Yeah.
And as we were saying earlier on, it does sound like Herbie wanted a punchier sound, and they'd already recorded it, so he went back and re-recorded the bass line to the click.
Right.
And then when they listened back in the studio in the mixing room, they accidentally left both running. So it is a stereo sound that you hear on the album. So
isn't there a quadraphonic version or something of the album as well?
There is. It's I think there are two types of quadraphonic records, and it's designed so you can play it on a standard turntable, the one I've got at least, but it just sounds slightly different.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot more reverb and stuff, but
yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's also this ring mod as well, which works really well when you've got the two oscillators going together. But just putting it up a little bit on one oscillator, you still get a bit of kind of dirt that's added to the sound, kind of grittiness, which is really nice. So.
That's brilliant.
So yeah, there's like a clav that goes over this, isn't there, as well? Should I just put you on a...
Yeah, this will only be approximately the line.
Yeah, actually before we do that, let's just, I'm kind of relying pretty heavily on Native Instruments sounds at the moment. They're so good. I mean, I just want to... If you just play the clav now, is that coming up? There we go. So yeah, this is just from the factory library. I'll just bring this down. Sorry, here we go. There we go. It's the Scarby clavinet. Actually, no, maybe it's actually from the Scarby vintage keyboards.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's got this auto wah on it.
Yeah,
it's compression
that sounds
as
cool.
well. I mean, if you were playing, I mean, you've got a clavinet, haven't you? Home clavinet, and you actually use a real like wah wah pedal. Yeah,
because I think you get a bit more control. You've got control whether the envelope's open or closed. So it is a very different sound from an auto wah. But this is really cool for the purposes of today.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Let me just put you up on the virtual keyboard. Here we go.
Okay.
There we go. So I'm just gonna.
So rough chords.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Sounds great. You want to keep playing? I might as well record that in. I'm gonna have a quick chat about what the chords are. Brilliant.
Okay.
That sounds great. Yeah. So
it's approximate. That's my disclaimer, but
it sounds really cool.
Sounds about right.
Let's just. I'll just take this bit here. So what are the chords you're playing there?
So the first one's pretty easy to work out. I mean, this is standard kind of EMC fare.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the voicing, we've got an A flat, a D flat, and an F and a B flat.
Yeah.
And if you descramble those notes, it's just a B flat minor 7.
Yeah.
But the way the notes are opened out sounds pretty cool. And we've got some fourths in there, which I think really alters the sound.
Yeah.
But it's recognisable as a minor 7. So,
right.
I think that's the important thing. Ear training is good to know that even though that's a different voicing, it's a minor 7 sound.
Yeah.
And the other thing is syncopated, isn't it? There's not very much going on the beat.
Yeah.
So I didn't do any ghost notes or anything. I just play simple chords, but it's always anticipating the beat. And then the other chords, it's just basically taking the top 3 notes up to E flat, G, and C, which because that G's there, that makes me think it's at this point it's kind of B flat Dorian, E flat Mixolydian.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Otherwise it'd be the G flat, wouldn't it? So.
Yeah. And there's a kind of suspended feel as well because he doesn't really alter what he's doing over either bass note, so it's kind of suspended sound as well. But yeah, fairly simple chords.
I mean, I think it's almost like a sort of a classic riff, isn't it? You know, when you have that, you know, with that kind of Dorian, it defines the sort of that Dorian funk sort of sound, really.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of attitudes.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I wonder if he sort of was very influenced by his time with Miles and that kind of the modal stuff that he was doing. Or it's more like the kind of Sly and the Family Stone and that kind of thing as well.
I think, well, you know, we were saying earlier about listening to your favourite music or just being involved in music and all those things coming through what you then create. He couldn't help it, and by all accounts in the books, he's sort of talking about he was trying to force this project in the direction of James Brown. Yeah. And in fact, I think he was actually trying to sing over the music and grunt and do, you know, James Brown stuff, and it wasn't coming off.
Really? Okay.
But then he realised the personnel that he was working with and stuff, he had to freely let it go in that direction. So, yeah, the kind of Dorian feel and stuff, it's a mixture of his Miles years and also listening to Sly Stone and James Brown and really wanting to do something that connected with the people that wasn't quite so... I was trying to describe unmindishy, but thoughtful. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, he was always pretty keen to get into vocals, wasn't he? You know, and he
did later on, obviously.
Very vocoder-based stuff. So, well, also, do you want to talk about just quickly the head? I mean, if I just put that Rhodes sound, a Rhodes sound on here. Yeah. Just play over that kind of groove.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll let it run for another bar.
Yeah. So the rhythmic interaction is amazing.
Yeah. And then should we look at the note? Because I mean that's repeated 4 times, and then they have a rest, and then there's a second pattern. I mean, again, in terms of the composition, this came out of several jams that they stitched together. Right. So they rehearsed a lot. But looking at the notes that are used, that's exactly the same notes that are in the clavinet part. It's another B flat minus 7. Yeah. And it's just I think this is really kind of justifying really knowing your scales and the sound of them and basic chords, because you don't have to go very far from a chord or a scale to something that's melodic, because it's just the insertion of some catchy rhythm, and you're there. So, and also just having those kind of shapes as well that, you know, your hand would naturally go towards, that, you know, you can actually, I think that's important, like learning arpeggios as well, because that can kind of move you in the direction of creating a melody. Yeah. And that's why I've often thought, you know, loads of house music has a minor 9 like that. And actually when you look at your hand, you think, well, you don't need to know much about music to play that instinctively and go, that sounds nice. And it's because your thumb and your little finger are equidistant from your second and third fingers in the middle. So it's just a natural thing to play, even if you knew nothing. So
what you just did there is something that I kind of incorporated into EMC when I call this human chord device. Because you know, these chord devices now are so prevalent, where you can basically hold down one note and it plays a chord. Whereas that kind of didn't exist when I was learning keyboards, and I would actually consciously practice my chords by going up in semitones or whole tones, just to kind of learn those chord shapes. And I think it's just a brilliant exercise, you know.
It really is. Because we've got to negotiate the black and white notes. And you've got to be comfortable with that. So it's a very good idea to play in different. Keys.
There's one, just staying on this section before we move on to the other one. There's a bit where it kind of, maybe I can find it. This is it coming out the end here where there's the chords.
Oh yeah.
How amazing is that?
Yeah. I would say that's one of my favourite moments in music.
Ever?
Yeah, ever. Yeah. And I can listen to that again and again, full volume.
Yeah. Can you just play those chords on there? Just to sort of, I wonder if I can just play it on.
And it's really covering most. I mean, this is me picking it out by ear.
Yeah, really, you picked it out by ear.
So that's again, it might not be entirely accurate, but picking it out that. So the first one is over D flat, as you're playing, and I mean there are most notes from maybe D flat mixed Lydian or something like that.
Right.
And then the last one is, that's all from B flat Dorian. So we've still got that kind of minor feel, but there's the G in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a tune in itself, isn't it? Just do something just on those.
And the envelope on the last bass note as well.
Yes.
Where it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Combined with a bit of, well, it's like pushing up the reverb on that as well, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Now getting really geeky.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go into, there's this kind of bridge section before we get into the outro section. So just have a quick play of that. I love this.
So in terms of counting on to music, knowing where the one is in that is quite good practice.
Yeah, I've kind of mocked up the beat. Also, the tempo is faster now.
Yeah.
I sort of got the first section. I got it around it was like 96 BPM. Now it's going up to about 114.
Yeah.
So if I just play that now, and should we sketch in the bass?
Yeah.
Can you play on all of that?
Yeah.
Just play along on our. It's all right.
Yeah. Capture some good ones there.
And there's a kind of clav part that goes over that as well.
It's quite simple as well.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, octave too high.
Great.
Something like that. Again,
so this is it's really just kind of pedaling, isn't it, on the B flat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
And it's kind of similar kind of chords, clav chords that are in the first section, in the main section. But this is all setting us up for the kind of the golden moment.
Yeah.
Here we go. Let's just take it back a little bit. Which is, that's the loop of this.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just, I've kind of mocked up those drums as well, so let's just put those in. There we go.
What bass are you using as well? Because that electric bass sounded really good.
Yes.
Is that like a Fender P or something?
Thank you for reminding me. Again, another native instruments. It's the Scarby J bass. Yeah.
Jazz. Oh, jazz bass. Right.
Yeah. And do you want to play it? Is it on the moment? Do you want to play it on there?
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm also using the guitar rig as well.
Yeah.
Just got it's kind of going through an amp setting here. It's got some EQ on it, but it makes it big.
Great.
It makes it. If I turn it off.
Yeah. Yeah, too throaty there.
Yeah.
So.
Turn it on. Great. I have to say, it's just, there's like, with the kind of current Native Instruments contact library, it just kind of pretty much gives you everything you want,
Yeah.
But yeah. Can you play this bass line? Can you remember it? I can put it in if you want.
You play. Yeah, play.
Let's just take this off a minute.
Yeah. I feel like I've been dominating the time. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, let's just put the keyboard on. There we go. I have to just change the input. There we go. Okay, so let's just put that in.
Sounds great.
yeah, let me just put this back on, then we can start talking about the chords of this as well. So let's just put the complete control back in. There we go, and I've also got the kind of chords here. Now, this is just, what I've got here is on the outro section. These I would say are just the sort of, you know, quite basic chords, but I've got an F minor 7 over B flat, and then I'd say like a second inversion B major 7 over D flat. Would you kind of agree?
Yeah, so often the way I would call that chord would be a sus13.
Right.
Because, are you able to put a Rhodes on the...
Yes, that should be on now.
Yeah, okay. So that's, you've got the 7th, the flat and 7th, you've got the 9th, you've got the 11th, and the 13th. So it's suspended because of those two notes. Yeah. And then it's got the 13 in it. So yeah, I think a sus13 is a good way of describing it. But also equally, that slash chord notation is fine as well. Yeah. Isn't it? Yeah.
But whereas the main kind of, you know, main head section is going from the 1 to the 4 chord, this is, you'd say, from the 1 to the 3 chord.
Yeah, it's just like a minor third, 3 semitones up, which is a really cool change. Yeah.
It is a really, really nice change as well. So I mean, just want to kind of jam a little bit on the Rhodes over this section.
Yeah. I've got to play the beginning. This is, I've got music in front of me.
Fine. Is this your transcription?
It is. It's an old print out of it, but
right. Let me just get those strings. Amazing. Yeah, fantastic.
So I think it's at that point it's worth saying, just a reminder of that YouTube transcription, because it's all there. I've got a half-speed video, so if anyone wants to pick up any voicings or stuff from that, obviously we could be here all day because we love this track. But if you go to Tom O'Grady Music on YouTube, there is a half-speed Chameleon how to play the solo.
One thing that we were talking about beforehand was this thing. I mean, it's obviously a very common thing in jazz, but it's playing outside the key.
Yeah.
And there's quite a few examples, aren't there, in the solo?
There are. Yeah.
Is there one kind of bit in particular that you could kind of just pick up on?
Yeah. Well, I'll just see if I can find the bit that I just played, which is a good example. Yeah. I mean, no, there is another one. Yeah. I mean, you can do all sorts of things like play a semitone out. Yeah. So instead of playing the F flat. F minor 7 that you were talking about. Yeah. Actually, it's a tone away. Yeah. So it's a tone away. It's fairly removed from the original key, but as soon as you play back in the intended scale, I guess the hindsight allows the listener to understand what was going on. Yeah. So you really do have quite a lot of freedom if you understand your scales, how to break the rules. Yeah. So I'd circled a couple of things. Yeah. So. One thing in terms of playing in scale or showing how inventive you can be even if you're playing completely in scale. Of course. Sure. Sorry, I should have done that for the... Shall I just play that out of key bit again? So that is just a broken chord, and it's a G major 7. Right. And then like an octave tremolo. Yeah. But I was just, I'd circled a couple of things. So... You can play in the scale of the next bar, so you can playing it out, but you're hinting at where you're going. So the bar I've got circled is. So this is the bar over D flat. So this is the one we've labelled as being B major 7 over D flat, or however you want to call it. And I'm playing in the scale that's going to take me back to the B flat. So that sounds really catchy. Because it's all syncopated, so it's all on the next 16th. Yeah. But actually, when you look at something, it's just outlining that scale. Yeah. Which is B flat Dorian. So there are instantaneous kind of clashes with what's going on because we're actually in the bar with the D flat chord. But it makes sense when you hear the next bar.
Yeah, of course.
So playing out with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is a cool
it's
way.
just kind of going out, sort of. It's just providing suspense, isn't it? To kind of go to then kind of go back in. It's like and also having some kind of strong, catchy idea that you take through changes often allows you to play out because there's enough context that you can hear what the intent was. So there's another bit that I think I circled. This idea. Love that riff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really, really catchy one.
Yeah.
And the main thing is, again, it's just a broken chord with some rhythm added. And he does adapt the notes a little bit to match the key sometimes, but sometimes he doesn't.
Yeah.
And I think it's just enough to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So based on a kind of broken chord, like an arpeggio type thing.
So again, that's a really good example of improvisation, and for anyone trying to insert some kind of improvisation into their songs, you just need to come up with one little idea and then try and follow it to completion rather than just play it and move on. You know, you can explore it. And again, good examples that you can play notes that are not in key, but they sound good. So
well, we're a bit out of time, I think.
We could go on.
We could go on for ages, you know, but it's been wonderful having you here, Tom, and I really hope we can do some more, do some more things.
Thank you very much for having me.
We were chatting earlier, we possibly do like a broken beat tune or something, that'd be really good.
That'd be fantastic, Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that as much as I have. And we'll be coming back next week for another Friday Forum Live. I just want to say that we've got a new social network at Point Blank called Plugged In, which is available to Point Blank students. It's still going to be available to everyone, but I'm going to be on that after we finish for the rest of the afternoon, so answering questions. So you would have got an email. The current students and past students, you'll have an email about that, about how to access it. But thanks again, and see you next week.